So today I want to talk about just collecting in general and a little bit about myself. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Professor Prime and I am the webmaster, host, editor, graphic designer, copywriter, every hat and title under the sun, YouTuber, content creator of MajinPlanet.com. And if this is your first time here, welcome to the MajinCast. And this is going to be a new podcast where I'm just going to talk about the website, my content, my life, things in general, and stuff like that. So I want to start this off with just kind of telling you guys a little bit about myself before we dive into some of the topics that I have listed out that I want to talk about today. So the first thing that I want to talk about is just myself in terms of my journey in collecting. So, like most people born in the 80s, I grew up with, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Silverhawks, G.I. Joe, the Toxic Crusader, Robotech, Voltron, and then as you move into like the early 90s, you get shows like Power Rangers, Angry Beavers, Batman the Animated Series, Spider-Man the Animated Series, and a whole bunch of other really cool shows and things like that. Now, when I was a kid, I actually was collecting. I actually started my collecting probably around the age of like 10 or 11. And while I still played with my toys, as a kid would, I started putting my figures on the shelf and displaying them like in action scenes and stuff like that. And I would still take them off the shelf and mess with them and stuff like that. But, that was kind of my early memory of collecting and things like that. So, and, long story short, I, moved multiple times throughout, like, I think every child probably at least moved 5 or 6 times with their parents, or guardians. I guess it depends on your own personal situation. But I basically would just go through and be like, yeah, I'd have to put my stuff in storage. And I put a good chunk of my collection in storage. And, as you move around, my childhood, I wouldn't say was terrible, but I would move around a lot with my parents. Every couple of years we moved, it seemed like. And I just ended up getting to a point where I just left the stuff in the storage unit, which is easier. And became an adult and just kind of forgot about the stuff. And I mean, I still collect it here and there. And I ended up, I moved. And when I moved, I brought some of my collectibles, like my MP01, which my mother got me. I still have it. I had a metallic version Bumblebee, which I actually think it's actually was supposed to be Goldbug, and a lot of people have pointed out, oh, that's the GT version, but it's the same mold. Like, it's, and, a couple other things like that, but nothing really significant. Some G1 stuff that I did still have. Like, I had my Constructicon set still, which I had back home, which I was able to bring back with me when I went home and brought it back, and some other things like that. And I guess it'd be third generation Soundwave. It's not the original G1 Soundwave, but it's still the G1 mold. It was like the first. I think it was the first package reissues that they did. So it's technically still the same toy. It was just repackaged in a different box, but stuff like that. So I have that part of my G1 collection. But it was very, very much my collection journey began in 2016 when I was on my own for the first time, probably like 20 years, honestly. And especially in the last 10, I didn't have somebody there to tell me that I couldn't do this or that, or, I was still kind of financially like not in a good place, but I was in a better place where I could have more control over my finances. And despite some irresponsible decisions I made early on there in 2016, 2017, I eventually got control of it. And now I have I wouldn't say like a massive collection, but I would say I have a pretty decent, well-defined collection of Transformers and Marvel Legends and just, some key things. Like I have a set of collections of like different franchises. Like I have like, a small Joe collection. I have a small Star Wars collection. I have like a Spider-Man spin-off section. I have some SH figure arts mixed up with like Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, GT, some statues, anime statues. Was able to go back home, and I was able to thankfully find like 80% of my original 2007 and Revenge of the Fallen Transformers live action film toys. And I've acquired a couple pieces since then to kind of fill it out, like I kind of just more focus on the first three films. And then, in 2016, the last 9 Age of Extinction toys I picked up. And then a couple like figures like Heart-8 figures that I had as a kid. Like I was able to get hold of my Super Saiyan 3 Goku. That was an import that I bought like probably in 1997. And it's one of those things where it comes with like the 3 different heads, like Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, that you can replace. My X23, sorry, Weapon X Wolverine, which I actually tried to sell at one point, but then I realized, because it came like a t-shirt, and then I realized that they didn't want it because they had like an abundance of it, and I didn't know that. And then I think another figure that I unopened figure that I ended up finding too in my storage or my closet back home was the 2003 An Lee Hulk figure, which is still in the package, and I haven't opened it, and I don't know if I'm ever going to. But for the most part, my collection is, I would say, like, the bulk of my collection is Marvel Legends, Power Rangers / Super Sentai, and Transformers is the bulk of it. And I do have, like, I have a little section of Jurassic Park / Jurassic World. I have, I have a little section that's like Mario and Sonic, and I have like an entire shelf now that's dedicated. The half the shelf is He-Man, and the bottom half is Godzilla. I have an entire, shelf, 5 bookcase shelf that is strictly Power Rangers / Super Sentai. And then I have, another shelf that's strictly just the original, is like all the movies. So it's like, the 86 movie, the first live action movie, the second live action movie, the third live action movie. It's kind of mixed up, but I kind of have like all of them together. And then I do kind of a thing where I do like, what do you call it? Like character focus shelves. So like I have a shelf that is all like, well, I have a couple of shelves that are like all Optimus Prime. I have like my main Optimus Prime shelf, which is like the big, animated film version, the live action versions, and then I have like the vehicle modes in front of it. Those are all masterpiece scale / some chugs. The majority of my Transformer collection is chug figures, like, Studio Series figures with some legacy thrown in there, just kind of like to fill out characters and stuff like that. I do have a small War for Cybertron collection, like, have the Arc, Optimus, Megatron, Starscreams, Soundwave, RC, Alita 1, Ultra Magnus, stuff like that. Bumblebee. It's just kind of like on my shelf. I do have, in 2016, I started buying Funko Pops. And I didn't really plan on talking about Funko Pops too much in this episode. I might talk about it later. You guys will let me know if you guys are interested in me talking about the rise and fall of Funko Pops. But yeah, I was obsessed with Funko Pops. They were cheap. You could get them like $6-7 a piece. You can go to Hot Topic and they're selling them for like $25 for 3 or something like that. You buy 3, get them for like real cheap. So yeah, I did that for a good 2 years. I collected more Funko Pops than anything else, just because they were cheaper. But then, like, when I dived into the third-party Transformers market, and I realized that it was cheaper. Well, I wouldn't say cheaper, but it was more cost-effective to just save the money and buy an expensive piece than buying a bunch of small stuff that I eventually got tired of and eventually didn't want. And while my space in my house is very limited, like, I have space, but I have to use it sparingly. And so, like, I made the conscious decision that for the collection that I want, like 86, I went with Studio Series. I could have gone Masterpiece. I could have gone third-party Masterpiece. I could have got a mixture of third-party and official Masterpieces. I do have a couple, Takara Masterpieces, like, and third-party ones. Like, I have Rodimus Prime third-party. I have a Megatron KO that's MP, I think MP 41, something like that, 50, whatever. I do have the actual official Takara RC. I have, a Cyclonus from X Transbots. These are all Masterpiece scales. So am I like, but I don't have the shelving space to be able to put like one of the issues that I had early on with my collection was I would end up doing the whole thing. Oh, sorry, excuse me, sir. Kind of as they say in the collection community of just standing your figures up, straight up and down. And some figures, that's the only way they can be is straight up and down because of posability issues. But most Transformers, especially modern Transformers, have a lot of articulation. And I would just pack my shelves full. And I've learned to kind of spread my shelf out. Now, granted, right now my movie shelves are pretty packed because, like, the first shelf I put, like, all the Autobots. So it's, like, all the Autobots from the movies. But I tried to do it in a way where they're all posed. So, or they're in some kind of pose. So they're not just standing straight up and down. And I did the same thing with the Decepticons. And because I have the Chug Devastator, so I actually have 2 shelves dedicated to Decepticons. Plus, I have the Devil Savior set on the very top shelf because I just, despite the issues I've had with that set, I think it's an impressive looking bot. So impressive, I bought 2 sets. I bought the new set. But for the most part, I kind of character focus my shelves. Like I have a shelf that's like I was saying, like Optimus Prime. I have another shelf that's, a different version of Optimus Prime. Like I have, because of the way I did my shelves, I have cubes. On half my shelves are cubes. So I kind of split it up. So I have like one cube is like G1 versions of Optimus Prime. Another one, which is a mixture of third-party Legends, Chug, and official Takara products. I have another shelf that's all like they're Chug because of space, but they're all like, animated, Earthspark, different. And I do have Transformers Prime in there, but that's a third-party version. And then I have like a Rodimus / Hot Rod shelf, which is a mixture of third-party, Chug, reissue, class G1 reissue. And then I have like another shelf that's like I'm working on that's just all Starscream or Seekers. One that's just all Megatron, or just a couple Megatrons, but the one that's all Soundwave. But those shelves might end up going away because, I have those characters in other shelves. So, and I made the conscious decision that I really would like to have a G1 display. And because my Masterpiece collection right now, like third-party Masterpiece collection, is kind of all over the place. And because I've just purchased pieces that I wanted and not necessarily like build a cohesive thing. Like I have G1 RC, G1 Skywarp, because that's the one I got. And I wanted to get Thundercracker and Starscream, but I haven't seen them yet for a decent price. I have a Megatron, and then I have, Movie Bumblebee, Movie Galvatron, Dino, and then so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to do like a Masterpiece scale like movie, but only like my favorites for now, anyways. And then I'm thinking I'm going to do like a couple, like I might do like a shelf that, and then of course I have like my Devastator shelf, and then I have like right now I got Bruticus. I'm pretty much going to have that entire set here, but by the end of the next month I'll have that whole set. I'm collecting the X-Transbot Devastator because he's one of my favorite combiners. And I do have Menasor. I have the Legacy. I have the DX9. And I have the I think it's Magic, either New Age or Magic Square Legends. But I decided that in order to maintain the space and everything like that, I decided to start going in on Legends. Because I could easily get like Season 2 probably, of both Autobots and Decepticons onto one shelf within a diorama setup, which I think is what I'm going to do. And, well, actually, that is what I'm doing because I've already purchased a bunch of figures that I don't have. I'm totally like, okay, I'll buy this set, buy this set, And I've already got a couple pieces, like I've already got Megatron, I've already got Optimus. So I got the leaders at least. But yeah, that's my collection journey. Like, right now, I would say my collection, I've gotten to the point now where I would say my collection has become finite, where the only thing that I have an issue with, like, in terms of, like, my collection right now, would be my Masterpiece collection. And, like, I have, like, a whole shelf that's kind of a mismatched shelf, and I need to, like, just figure out what I want to do with that. Because there are pieces I want, but I haven't purchased those pieces because I don't know if they're going to fit in with what I have. And there are certain pieces that I purchased because I thought they were cool and I wanted them. So there's that. And I got a couple other things, like I've got like, I got Jinrai that I purchased, or Power Master Prime I purchased, which is the Takara one, because I wanted a Power Master Prime. And then I've got like Armada Prime and Armada Megatron. And my Armada Starscream is not with them. He probably should be. And then I've got like I got the I got a whole bunch of stuff. Let's just put it that way. So it's still a work in progress. And I think when you're creating a collection, it's always a work in progress. Like, it's never really truly finished, because there's always going to be eventually another piece, And I know I didn't talk too much about DC, but I do have like a Batman display, and I do have like a Elseworlds Batman display, and then I do have like a Superman display that I'm putting together. But so yeah, that's kind of my thought, and that kind of like rolls us into my next topic I want to talk about, which is your collection space. And I watch a lot of videos on YouTube of people who do collection decrees and review people's spaces, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're good at, yeah, you should do this, you should do that. Sometimes, like, you don't really know the context of the living situation. Like, when you come into my house, like, the first thing you do is you walk in, and like, because of my limited space and my collection that I've been really trying to pull my collection all together. And as of right now, my collection is spread between like 4 or 5 bookcase shelves, like 6 cubes, which are stacked up onto, so it's like 4 cubes stacked up on each other. And then I have another set of cubes, which is actually 3 cubes. It's a 9 cube and 2 6 cubes that are stacked up. Those are actually in my bedroom, which would be part of the collection, which is, and I have another like small bookcase that's on a counter that's got my board games, but then I put all my Jurassic World stuff on the top because they're large and big. And then I have like, what you like, in your kitchen, you have like the countertop on the very top over the cabinets. Yeah, that's just completely covered with figures. And I got like, like 80s collection. These are all my childhood shelf, that I like to call it. My ultimate goal would be just have a room that's like wall to wall shelves, and I could display everything in one spot. And then have like choice pieces throughout the house, instead of having the entire house covered in figures, which is kind of what it is right now. My entire house is literally covered with figures everywhere. I have figures on top of the fridge. I have figures on my countertop table. I've got figures like on floating shelves. I've got like shelves hung up and stuff like that. And while right now I'm not in a position to move, but it's always something that I take in consideration. Like, moving is, if I move, it's going to be the last move I do, and it's got to be in a space that not only I'll be happy with, but I can grow it. Because I would say right now my current collection is about 90% complete. There's probably some things like, the G1 thing and my masterpiece collection that I want to kind of fine tune and then get the pieces that I want. And there's still some stuff that I haven't found yet. Like, for example, I haven't found a Superion that I like. And since we're on the topic of Transformers, I think, I don't know how I feel about Hasbro. And I know some people have like mixed feelings on Hasbro when it comes to like, especially like the G.I. Joe line, Marvel Legends, Black Series, especially Transformers. Like, Transformers, I think, gets a lot of hate because Transformers are transformable figures. They take a lot of liberties with how they build those molds. And so a lot of people go, "Oh, well, this Chug figure's garbage. It doesn't have the articulation that it should have, or it doesn't have this and it doesn't have that," because they're comparing it to a third-party company that is not it's not so much that they're not restricted by like the laws of the United States, or like, but they don't have to worry about selling their stuff in a retail store and abide by standards that have been implemented by retail stores for protection of children. So I think the biggest thing, like with Hasbro, that they get a lot of hate for that, and they're gonna get even more hate now. I think when it comes to Hasbro, the biggest thing right now is that their new CEO has been pushing the company to become more of a gaming company. And from a logistics point of view, And I can understand the reasoning why they'd want to do that, because they're a toy company and they want to sell toys. But the problem is that children are not buying toys anymore. Like kids nowadays, they want a tablet. They want to play Fortnite. They want to play video games. They don't care about Transformers. They don't care about GI Joe. They don't care about Marvel Legends. Like, it's crazy how often that I work with toys, so I kind of know this, so I see it, that majority of people that come in to buy, even like when I go out toy hunting, are adults, and that's the reasoning why the prices have skyrocketed. Because you'll walk in and you'll see a Marvel Legends figure that has modern articulation, like it has 32 points of articulation or whatever. It's painted decently. The head sculpt, depending on the character, may not be that great, depending on if it's a big Hollywood actor like Iron Man or something like that, or if it's like a mass figure like Spider Man or something like that, or a comic version of the character, so they don't have to worry about head sculpt. And it'll come with maybe one or two accessories if you're lucky, and it'll be like $30. And then you'll have another figure that has like maybe 12 points of articulation. It has like basic elbow, shoulder movement, head spin, stuff like that, and it's like $8, and it's like a 3/4 inch figure, and it's like $10, right? Like, so for example, they have like these Maximum Carnage or something toy line for Marvel, like it's Spider-Man. It's like Spider-Man versus Venom, like the symbiote line, and they'll have like 2 packs, or they'll have like single packs, right? And the single packs are like $11.99 for Spider-Man. And then like they'll sell like Venom, and Venom will be like $14.99, like $12.99, right? Now these are 3/4 inch scale figures, and then right next to it Hasbro will be selling GI Joe 3/4 inch scale, and they're like $25. They're like 19. They're like 19 because the classifieds and the retro carded classifieds are the retro carded figures, which is what I've been collecting. I collect the retro card GI Joe, and only certain characters. I don't collect everything, and I don't collect vehicles. Again, harping back to collecting space, they're more expensive, and even like the Star Wars 3/4 figures are like $20. So it doesn't make sense to me, but it does, because I know that they're doing that because those Spider-Man figures they're made those for kids. They know that I'm not walking in there and I'm not going to buy that 3/4 inch scale figure. Some people might, if you're a 3/4 inch scale collector. And I've been kind of fighting if I should start collecting like GI Joe or Star Wars 3/4 inch scale, because those are probably the two collections that you would do that for. Now I do have a small Black Series collection, which is like I have like Darth Vader, like I have like Luke Skywalker, I have Mandalorian, I have Moff Gideon, I have Leia, stuff like that, and I'm just mainly looking for like for that collection. It would just be the Emperor too, and Grogu with Luke Skywalker, would be to just collect, the main cast for the original trilogy. So it would be a Darth Vader, the Emperor, which I have, Luke Skywalker, which technically it's from the Mandalorian, but it works. A Chewbacca, 3PO, R2D2, which I technically have an R2D2 somewhere. I'd have to find where it's at, but I do have one. And then Han Solo, and that's it. That's all I would need. And I do have, and I guess technically you would need like Boba, but I have Boba Fett, but it's the Mandalorian version. So I mean, I guess it would still work. And then for the Mandalorian, it's like, well, I got Boba Fett, which doubles off between two. And then I've got, the Mandalorian, and I've got Moff Gideon, and that's it. That's all I really need. I mean, I might want to get what's her face. I can't remember her name now. The girl with the blue. I can't remember her name now. The blue Mandalorian suit. Starts with a K. That's it. For the new trilogy, like Rey and like all of them, I don't care. Don't really care. But for the prequel trilogy, I have Anakin, adult Anakin. I'd probably want to get like an Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then of course I need an Obi-Wan and a Yoda for the classic, and then maybe Qui-Gon, Darth Maul. That's kind of it. That's all I really need. Maybe I got a couple stormtroopers, maybe get a couple battle droids, and that would be it. That would be my Star Wars collection. I would not need to do any more than that. I would need to build like a diorama and have like, the cantina and all that kind of stuff. It'd be cool. Don't get me wrong, that would be cool, but I wouldn't need that. So, and that's where I'm kind of at, like when it comes to doing that. But like I understand why Hasbro does what they do, because they know that the collectors they're not buying the little stuff, so they can make that cheaper. But I wonder in the next couple of years how if I'm gonna walk into the stores and we're not gonna have toy departments anymore, that the toy departments are gonna disappear and they're gonna shrink because Hasbro's gonna. Because I feel like once Hasbro pulls out of making toys completely, which I don't think they ever will. I don't think they never will. Even though they've said they want to move more towards the gaming and like start developing video games and stuff like that, which is funny because they had a video game reactivate and it just went. I mean, that's a whole different story. It's just funny how that game got canceled and then they came right out and announced that they're pulling out of funding any future movies because Transformers 1 did poorly, which was not Hasbro's fault. It was whoever and it really wasn't Paramount's fault either. It was whoever was hired to do the marketing for that movie failed. And I can't say it was somebody under Hasbro or it was somebody under Paramount. I don't know that. So I really can't speculate on that. But I just think it's really going to be a bad move for Hasbro if they fall out of toys. And they've already started doing it. Like, for example, like the Power Rangers line, I don't have my original Megazord or anything like that anymore. And I was like, hey, well, I bought the Lucky Cat one, which was a cool figure, but it's like it's like a legend scale Megazord, stylized. And I was like, okay, well, for my birthday one year, I said, hey, I saw GameStop, they had the Zap Megazord. That's cool. And like I was like there with Mr. J, and I told him, I said, hey, on my birthday, I'm gonna come in on my birthday. They still have it when I walk in, which was like I think 5 days after that, was like a week till my birthday at the time. I was like, if it's here, I'll get it. If it's not here, I won't buy it. And of course, I came back and then they had it, so I got it. And then of course, I wanted to get the Dragon Zord to go with it, but like, I missed out on the pre-order on it, or I think it already had come out, and then like I can only find it at like overpriced, and so I was like, I don't want to overpay for it, So, and I still don't have that thing. I still don't have that Zap Dragon. And then they released the, Zap Astro Mega ship, and I really wanted that, and I was going to get it. I was gonna put an order in to get it, but then Hasbro announced that they were ending the Legacy line. They weren't making it anymore, and I'm just like, oh, well, you didn't even finish. Like, and I think part of that might have come because they did Dino or Cosmic Fury, and then they ended Power Rangers. They didn't continue it, and I don't know if I thought Once and Always was decent enough, and I did watch Dino Fury on Netflix, and I thought it was fine. It was short, and I feel like they misused the Sentai footage. I feel like trying to do like, we're gonna keep the last season's like helmets of the Dino Fury. I think Dino Fury as a name was probably a mistake. It should have been called Dino Knight. And I feel like if they wanted to go the route of Cosmic Fury and use, I think it was Q Ranger, they had like 13 Rangers because it was based off the Zodiac, and they didn't really do that. And the Zord did make sense because of what the Sentai footage was from, and they did film a lot of their own footage. They mainly just used some suits and the news. And I thought it was cool that they had Billy in it, and he was in his suit, so you had everybody was in different suits. It was kind of weird, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna do Mighty Morphin. So I was like, okay, well, I don't want to pay $30-$40 for a Lightning figure because I don't know how the quality of these are. And I did buy the Pink Ranger, which came like with bow and some flash of some effects on it, and she's all right. She's not great, and at this point, I think I might look into like SH Figure Arts if they have them, and I might even look at what the Super 7 figures look like, because right now I have just Kimberly, and then I have Lord Draken, because I missed out on the Comic-Con exclusive they did several years ago in 2018. Yeah, it was 2018. I had ordered it. I had ordered the Comic-Con box and paid the money to get the Lord Draken, and then they oversold them. because I ordered mine so late, I wasn't available to get one at that point. So I got my money back, but still, it was kind of sucked that I didn't get that figure, you know. And honestly, ever since that happened, I've never done another pre-order. I've never done another order Morphicon. Like, you know, they let you buy like goodie bags. Like, you don't have to actually go to the convention. While I feel like they did me justice, you know, they gave me my money back, plus they gave me a whole bunch of extra stuff that was like way more value. It's just a bad taste in my mouth that they a sought out figure like that, they oversold them, and then they're like, we have to give you your money back. So that was like disheartening for me. But you know, when Hasbro announced that they ending the Legacy line, I was just like, great. So they're not going to do Titanus now, and I have the Legacy Thunder Zord, and I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it. It'd have been nice to see what they would have done in the Zap Ascension the Ascension project, what they would have done with making a Legacy Thunder Zord, because I might have upgraded, and because I had the Legacy Ninja Zord, Ninja Megazord. I ended up selling it. I had the Falcon too. I ended up selling them. They didn't do nothing for me. The articulation on them was just they just weren't that great. I just got rid of them. And it might be because I just didn't really have that. I mean, you know, I watched it back then. I just didn't have like the nostalgic pull to it, like I do like the original Power Rangers figures. So, anyways, when they made that announcement, they weren't doing anymore. I was like, well, okay, well, I guess it's a good thing that I already got the Legacy stuff that I wanted. Like, I got the Legacy Dragon Dagger, I got the Legacy Power Sword, the Red Ranger's Power Sword. I didn't get any of the helmets. I did buy the Red Ranger helmet from the movie because it was on clearance, but that was the only reason I bought it. And I'm not much of a helmet collector, you know. Like, again, space. Circle back to having space. You gotta have the space for it. Like, I literally have my Prime mask. I have my Darth Vader Black Series helmet. I technically have the Megatron helmet, which is actually Mr. J's. He just left it at my house. Because we were gonna use it for videos. He's like, I'll just leave it here, so it's here. And then I have the Red Ranger helmet from the 2017. All I have. Mr. J collects helmets. I don't collect. Not too much. But yeah, I think it's a bad move for Hasbro to become a gaming company. But at the same time, Playmates is gonna be making Power Rangers news. I'll get into that news a little bit later. But it just sucks, you know. It just. But that being said, I want to talk about some of the stuff that I'm interested in for this year, 2025. So we got Superman Legacy, and I'm looking forward to this. I think Superman Legacy is gonna be good. I still hold judgment. I did do a reaction to the first trailer, and I would say my reaction was overall positive. I feel like there's too many characters. I feel like I wanted a Superman movie, and not a Superman movie with a whole cast in it of other heroes that I don't care about. Like Mr. Terrific. I think is a pretty cool character, but I don't care too much about him. I don't care about Hawk Girl or Hawkman, and I definitely don't care about the Green Lantern guy they have in it. And who else knows who else is going to be in this movie? But I also understand that they're creating a world where you're bringing in Superman into the world where you already have these heroes. So I understand that. So, and I know there's this whole legal issue going on with right now trying to block the movie from getting released in certain countries or something like that. And I don't think it's even called Superman Legacy anymore. I think it's just called straight Superman now. But that's what it was originally going to be called, Superman Legacy. And I don't know, guys. I'm looking forward to that this summer, along with the Thunderbolts is coming out. I think next month comes out. I'm actually looking more forward to that than I thought I was going to, just because I think the way they've done the trailers has been a lot better. I think it's been a lot better. It's one of those funny things is like Marvel's get like this really bad like hype right now. Like the hype for Marvel's been like, oh, like Deadpool, yeah, right, and then Captain America: Brave New World was okay. It was fine. It wasn't a great movie, but it was fine. I went out and bought the Captain America figure, just so I have it. I have the Build-A-Figure version, which is from the TV show, and then I have the Captain America one. So I was like, you know what? I should just get this. It's like, I think it was like $35. I didn't get Falcon because that character did annoy me. He really annoyed me in that movie. But, and then of course you have Fantastic Four. And I'm really worried about Fantastic Four because I'm not sold on the cast. The actor they have playing Bim Grin is fine. Pastel playing Mr. Fantastic, I'm not sold on. I'm still not sold on it. I feel like I think the best actor, ironically, or at least looked like Reed Richards, was the guy, and I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but it was the guy who played Reed Richards in the first two Fantastic live action. Not the really bad one from that. It was never technically officially released. I mean I think it was 2006, 2004, 2006 films. Those Fantastic Four movies, like with Chris Evans. I do like the things designed, and I'm not gonna go too much into like on the Fantastic Four itself, but I am worried about this movie because I did react to it, the trailer, and I threw my thoughts into that. So if you guys want to check that out, you can check that out on MajinPlanet YouTube. But I'm just not sold on most of the cast, and then like with Galactus being in the movie, and then like there was some leaks from a test screening that Doctor Doom shows up in the movie, and like that Doctor Doom got snapped away, and then he came back, and then like he bought tech from Tony Stark, and I'm like, that's cool and all, but like, so you're trying to tell me that in this alternate universe of the MCU, Thanos snapped his fingers? Doesn't make sense, and I think it's just a bunch of BS. Honestly, I don't think there's any merits to it, which is why I consider it a rumor. But I think the Fantastic Four is. I'm hoping it's gonna be good. The thing that a lot of Marvel movies and just like even DC movies seem to miss out on is theme songs. And the movies that you think are not gonna be that good, when they pop their theme songs, they're good. Like for example, the Batman. I think the Batman was too long. I think it has like the Lord of the Rings ending where it just kept on having to do stuff. It just couldn't just end. And I feel like it was super grounded and it had a lot of issues in terms of like, how it actually went. But that theme song, man, made that movie, just like the Avengers. The Avengers has not aged well, in my opinion. But that theme song, damn. Spider-Man. Every single Spider-Man movie, even the Amazing Spider-Man movies, which people have hated, even though now everybody loves those movies after No Way Home. I actually like the original. I actually like the Amazing Spider-Man. I thought it was fine. The suit, it took some getting used to. I was not a fan of it when they first showed it, but it made sense. Like, yeah, this is what somebody would do. And then the Amazing Spider-Man 2, that was awesome. I liked that movie. I love that movie. But again, it didn't do well because people had already checked out. And then of course at this point the MCU had started and people were like, just put him in the MCU. And which they technically did. But so yeah, and so it's kind of a weird segue, and I put my notes together what I wanted to talk about, like kind of a bullet point. And I probably should have moved this up when I talked about Hasbro when it came to Power Rangers, but here we are. What I was talking about earlier, when I wanted to circle back to that, Hasbro currently own the rights to Power Rangers. So like so nobody can make toys, nobody can produce any shows in the United States. Like nobody can go and grab hey, I want to take the Super Sentai show or this show and bring it to the United States and adapt it into a new Power Rangers. They can't do that without Hasbro's permission. And Hasbro, sold and were doing the rights with Netflix. They did Power Rangers Once and Only, where they brought the original cast back, or at least as many as they could, because we did unfortunately lose 2 of the cast members. And well, actually, we've lost more than that. We lost a couple of cast members, but like the main Rangers, we've lost 2. And then, of course, I think Kimberly J.B.O. Johnson, she didn't want to come back for it because like the money wasn't enough or something. Like, okay, like to be fair, like I other than your music career, which I'm not a fan of, I'm not really a man of her music, but other than that, you haven't done nothing. Like, I mean, you've done some like behind the scene production work, but like from a casual fan, like the biggest thing you did was Power Rangers. And saying that they offered you like $20,000 or whatever to come, or say they offered you like 10 grand and to come down and do like 4 days of shooting for like out of suit, and then do some DDR work for like voiceovers, that you can do later, and we'll pay to fly you out there. Maybe they weren't gonna pay to fly out there. Maybe you had to do that yourself. But even still, like it just seems like you would turn it down. And what's funny about that movie or that special is I think on social media she said, because people like were saying that she didn't do it because there wasn't enough money, and she was being greedy about it, and she should do it for the fans. And I think she came out and said that no, it had nothing to do with the money, even though it kind of like felt like she was saying it was about the money, but like the script wasn't there, and it's like it's Power Rangers. It's not like Super Sentai, which is geared towards teenagers. Power Rangers has always been, and I think forever will be, geared towards young kids. With that being said, you haven't. I as a casual Power Ranger fan, I haven't really seen you do anything to say that you're too good to do Power Rangers. You know what I'm saying? So, and I don't know what the original script was, but I do know like what ended up happening to her character in that movie was done because they didn't have her to come in and do her role. You know, and it's the same thing like with Tommy's character. The actor passed away, so they either had to. And there's speculation that he wasn't going to be part of it, that he didn't want to do Power Rangers anymore, and he was going to step away from the franchise, even though he basically lived that franchise his entire career. Like you can't just love that. You can't just feed off that franchise for an entire year and then just decide I'm not going to do it anymore after whatever time. But and in any case, there's speculations that he did film some scenes that he was going to be in it, but nope, he wasn't in it. He didn't film anything for it. And the Legend of the White Dragon was the last thing he did, which is based on Power Rangers, but it's not Power Rangers. Power Ranger E hasn't been released yet, and apparently it's been done for film's been over for 5 years. I did purchase from Valverse translucent version of the White Tiger or the White Dragon Ranger that is going to be in that movie. It was like a Comic-Con exclusive that I bought, left in the package because I'm not a huge fan of clear translucent figures, but I wanted to get a figure of that franchise, and I am a fan of Tommy, of that character, the Green Ranger, so I got it because kind of the same thing, in a way, kind of like Lord Draken. But like I was saying, Hasbro owns the rights to Power Rangers, so like they didn't sold, but they licensed the toy rights to Playmates, which is fine. We'll see what Playmates is going to do. They're going back to Mighty Morphin, which is fine. But then they announced that they're working on a new TV show. And I was for sure that if Power Rangers were to come back as a TV show again, it would be animated. It would be cheaper. I think it would be cheaper. No. They announced that it's going to be a live action show. Great. And it's going to be on Disney Plus. That's crazy because Power Rangers was originally on Disney Plus after I think Ninja Storm was when Wild Force was the last season fully produced by Saban. Ninja Storm was half produced between Saban and Disney as they took over, and then Disney produced Dino Thunder all the way to RPM, and then Saban bought it back and did Samurai, Super Samurai, etc. Until it ended with Dino Fury, which was Dino Fury was Beast Morphers, Dino Fury, and Cosmic Fury were Hasbro. They did those shows. And it just blows me away that they're going back to Disney, which worries me because every single Disney, and especially I think the show that's going to be doing it is like Percy Jackson, the people who did Percy Jackson, which I watched that on Disney Plus, and I thought it was pretty good. Like at least it kept me entertained, and I've never read any of the books or anything like that, so I was actually invested in that. And I think there was 2 seasons actually. It might have been 2 seasons already, but I don't know yet. It might have been 13 episodes. I don't remember. But a lot of Disney Plus shows that have come out, especially Marvel, have been 5 or 8 episodes. And that's kind of like the normal now. Because people just, I don't know if it's the writers just feel like they can't throw the fluff in anymore. They can't put filler in anymore because of decentralization of fillers and stuff like that. Or I don't know. I would love for them to bring back Power Rangers. And I think with Gojuger right now, next year, if the show were to come out, I would love them to adapt Gojuger. And what I would love for them to do is to do it where the entire Power Ranger universe, because I think RPM was actually in a separate timeline or a separate unit. I think it was actually established being a separate universe where everything else was in the same kind of cohesive universe-ish, as you put it. Is all the Power Rangers are just fighting, and you don't have to be the Power Rangers, the Zords. The Zords are fighting this great horror that's attacking the world, and then the Tegazord comes in, and the Tegazord saves the day, and the entire, because right now I don't really know in Gojuger what's going on, but what I have figured out is that the Super Sentai world was destroyed. Every single Super Sentai team that's ever existed was destroyed. Their powers were put into rings, which the Tegazord has control of, who has given these rings out to people and tell them you need to collect all the rings. What reason? I don't know. But because the guy in the first episode, I didn't even recognize him, plays Boon Red. And he had a Tegazord, and he turned into King Oger. That's crazy. That's insane. So while I think with this reboot, this restart of Power Rangers, I think if they don't have to use, I think the Gojuger suits are awesome. They don't have to use them if they don't want to. But I think leaning into what the story of Gojuger is with the Tegazord and destroying the Super Sentai world, I think doing something similar where you acknowledge the Power Ranger universe that everything from Mighty Morphin to Cosmic Fury happened, but you then destroy that world. It's destroyed. The new world is created, and you can start over with Mighty Morphin. And then you can basically do anything. You can go back and grab, like, if you want to go and do, like, the train season. I think what would be best with Power Rangers if they were maybe not so much, like, just get rid of the entire cast every time, but, like, maybe, like, you know, have a base cast, keep the same suits, keep the Mighty Morphin suits. Like, I think you should keep the Mighty Morphin suits and do what they did in the first 3 seasons. You know, where you had Mighty Morphin, their powers they lost their Zords, were destroyed, they got new Zords, they got the Thunder Zord. And then the next season, their powers were destroyed, or they lost their powers, and then they went and got the ninja powers, but they kept the same suits. They got new Zords. That's what they should do. They should keep the suits. Keep the suits the same, but then, like, every couple seasons, just, like, new Zords. Like, the Zords get destroyed, or they upgrade the Zords, and they get new Zords. And I think it'd be cool to introduce the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, like, Zord, or not Zords, but their suits again, right? And a new cast, like, not be like, oh, this is Jason, this is Trini, like, an actual new cast, right? Like, you know, so that way we know these are different characters. And maybe change the suit up a little bit, like, you know, since you're not going to be using Sentai footage anymore, stylize the suits a little bit, you know, give them, do something to them, you know, keep the helmets the same, maybe stylize the helmets a little bit, like they've done with, like, I've seen, like, stylized versions of the Green Ranger helmet. Maybe follow the comics a little bit, I don't know, or take elements from the comics, you know, but then, like, use the Tegazord, use that as the opener, and then at the end of that season, whatever the next season is, or even go back and do, like, King Oger and pull those Zords, and then have those Zords where, like, now they have these Zords, and they can do like King Oger, and then, like, oh, you know what would be really cool if we went all the way back and did, like, these seasons that we didn't do, and bring in those Zords, like the trains, or the cubes from Zooanger, you know, or anything like that. Like, go back to seasons they didn't do, and bring those toys in, and do those toys. And I think there's something going on with this Power Ranger show, because in Japan, with Bandai, they have been releasing this new toy line called Robo Universe. It's like this Zord system, right, which they first introduced in Boom Boominger, and I think, because I bought 2 of them already, and I've recorded my footage, but I haven't compiled the video yet, but I did buy Engine O and Gokaiger from Gokaiger and Gohanger. Too many goes here. And they're great. I think they're great. I mean, they're not awesome, but for what they are and what you can do with them, they're pretty cool. Like, they're actually pretty cool, and like, I look forward to, like, doing that video for those. And I'm looking forward to maybe pre-ordering or buying, like, maybe the Megazord and a couple other ones that see if they release them. But here's the crazy thing. They work with the Zord builder figures. Like the Hasbro ones, they work. And not just with the Hasbro ones, but the Zord builders from, like, all the way back to, like, Super Megaforce. And I think maybe even Megaforce. Like, they work with that. Like, whenever they modernize the Zord building system, it works with that. And that's crazy to think that these Zords would work with the Hasbro ones. Interesting. So I think there's something to that. I think there's going to be something to that, and we might be seeing these figures get released in the United States here, especially if they're releasing like older seasons, because so far all the ones they've released have been ones they've released in America. Like Wild Force, there's that one's coming out. Super Mega Force, Go Kaiger, that one came out. Engine O from Go Onger, RPM, you know what I mean? Mighty Morphin, or Zoo Ranger, Mighty Morphin, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have this feeling that's what they're going to be doing. I don't know yet. We don't have a lot of information yet. All we know is that Power Rangers is going to be back, live action. It's going to be on Disney+. Speaking of Disney+, Daredevil Born Again. Now, as of recording this episode, I have not seen episode 5 yet. It is out. I can watch it, but I haven't watched it. And I'm torn on it because I think the show is good, but I think they did a lot of misdirecting, especially when they said they brought the old cast back. Yeah, they did. They brought Frank and they brought the Kingpin back. And then, of course, Matt's back. But everybody else is all new. The other characters, I don't want to spoil it, but they made sure the other characters were gone after the first episode. Like, they have not returned. And I don't think they're going to return. They're still kind of a part of the show, but it's interesting. It's interesting because episode 1, it was good, but it's the weakest of everything so far. Episode 2 was really good. I feel like episode 3 and 4 is when they really started cooking, especially episode 4. Episode 4 was really, really good. So I feel like that it's gonna get good when we get into episode 5, 6, 7, and 8. I think 7 and 8 are gonna be peak. I think those are gonna be peak. I do feel like the villain is kind of in a slow burn. Like, I don't know who the villain is. I think his name is Muse. I don't know anything about him. I don't know that much about Daredevil's like characters other than like what the mainstream stuff that they've done, like Bullseye and Elektra. But beyond that, I never read like a whole lot of Daredevil comics, so I can't tell you who this character is. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be cool. And hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's what everybody expected, at least what I expected. So, and then another show that I started watching, and this is kind of people are gonna get kind of like, wait a minute, how can you be reacting to this if you've already watched it? So I watched it in Japanese. I watched Solo Leveling. It kept getting recommended to me on my Crunchyroll, and so I said, screw it, let's just watch it. And I put the first episode on, and it was confusing. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I had to rewatch it, right? Because I was watching it in Japanese, so like I was just listening. And then like I had to be like, what the heck? So then I sat down, and I really watched it. And then I was like, and then by the third episode, I was like, holy crap, this is really good. This is something that I understand this. I get this. And so I watched it, and I've watched the whole thing. I've watched season 1 and 2 up to episode 12 as of recording this episode. I think it's one more episode left for season 2, and then we'll have to wait a whole year. But I've watched it all in Japanese, and I think it's really, really good. I decided to go back and rewatch it, and I'm recording my reaction this time, but this time I'm watching the dub. And the dub actor is really good. I've watched the first 3 episodes already. I've gotten recorded. And I'm going to keep it. It's going to be on my Patreon. If you guys are interested in joining the Patreon, not only to support the show here, this podcast, everything else that I'm doing, you can head over to MajinPlanet.com/Patreon. And that should take you directly to the link. Or you can just go to Patreon.com/MajinPlanet. You can get to it there as well. And there'll be a link for it in the description of this episode if you're watching this. Or you're listening to this. I almost said watching. If you're listening to this on YouTube, because this is audio only. But yeah, I think it's really good, and I've heard people say that it's overrated, but I think it's really good. I think the writing, I think the manga I haven't read yet. I think depending on when season 3 is gonna happen, I will probably go back. I will probably pick up the manga and start reading it, and because I'm excited. The show. It's been a long time since I picked up an anime that I was like, yeah, this is awesome. Because I've tried watching a couple other animes on Crunchyroll just to get back into watching anime, and I'm just kind of like, this show is me. And then there's a couple of shows that I watched that were like really good, but then they're really short, like Chainsaw Man. That really disappointed me. I was like, wait, it's only one season? I should have just waited until it was done, you know? But yeah, so speaking of good anime shows, I do have a couple notes for today's show that I want to kind of like touch upon, just kind of like little things. I'm not going to go too in depth on. So Dragon Ball Daima, there's a lot of rumors going on, and I wasn't able to find any exclusive information whether these were true or not. But and I do know that there's a lot of like infighting between the family, the studio, and Toru Toriyama over Toriyama's death and who owns the rights to Dragon Ball. And like the studio owns the rights to the anime, like Dragon Ball Super, and then the manga, and like the original manga, and then Toriyama owns the rights to the Super manga that he's currently brought back. And then Daima was not under the same contracts as Super, which is why they're able to do Daima. And there's all these rumors that Daima is going to replace Dragon Ball Super. So like Daima is going to be now the new canon, which is weird. And people are like, yeah, because it was Toriyama's baby. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I know I haven't released everything on my Patreon yet, and releasing them on YouTube have done poorly. But Daima was a very slow burn. It was 20 episodes with, I would say, roughly 4 of those episodes were peak. Possibly 5, maybe 6 episodes. Out of 20 episodes, a quarter of it was good. It was like peak Dragon Ball, peak Dragon Ball Z, peak Dragon Ball Super. Now, don't get me wrong, the animation was amazing. The animation looked fantastic. It was the best animation ever from a Dragon Ball anime. But I don't know if I'm okay if Daima storyline replaces Dragon Ball Super in terms of anime. That doesn't mean we're not going to continue getting Super. Like, the manga is still going to exist. It's just kind of unfortunate that there's arcs, like the Granola arc, the Gas arc, and then, of course, whatever's going to happen with Black Freezer going forward. We're probably never going to get that animated. And we just got Gohan back we finally got Gohan back, like back to his peak Super Saiyan 2 kind of forte, I guess you could say, with the Beast Gohan form. And then we've got Brawly, and it's just like, and we got like Ultra Ego, we got Master Ultra Instinct Goku, and we got Orange Piccolo, and then we still haven't gotten, I just want to see adult Gotenks. I know it's not going to be that much, it's going to look like freaking Vegito in a sense, but I just want it, man. I just want to see it. And I just want Trunks and Goten to be relevant, That's my only thing. I just want those characters to be relevant. But the next thing I want to talk about, one of the notes that I put down, was the Toxic Crusader. Now, I loved the Toxic Crusader as a kid. I remember watching the Toxic Crusader, and I was like, "This is cool." It was a cartoon. It was cool. Some guy. He's a maintenance guy. He gets picked on. He falls into toxic waste, and he becomes a superhero. Becomes a disgusting superhero, and stops to save the world from waste. It's cool. I didn't realize that there were movies called The Toxic Avenger, and I was like, okay, well. And I remember, God, I think I was 19, and I got online, and I was able to find the movie. Like, I think it was like 2002, and I found the movie online, and I saw some clips of it, and so then I went to Blockbuster, and they had the movie, so I rented it, and there's 4 of them, and I took the movie home. And I was like, okay, well, this is a little bit more adult. And then, like, he has a girlfriend who's, like, blind. And she's like, oh, I'm fine with you being, like, I don't care if you're... He's like, I'm ugly, I'm deformed because he got mutated. And when he starts banging her, I was like, what the hell? Like, how did you get the Toxic Crusader cartoon show that they played on Fox Kids out of this? Like, there was a scene where he rips a dude's arm off, right? And this is like... It's like B-movie horror. It's like B-movie horror and like nudity, right? Like, I think the second movie has like a lesbian scene with like 2 chicks. And it's like, holy crap. This is crazy. And what's even crazier is they're remaking it. And it's not called the Toxic Crusader. It's called the Toxic Avenger. And it's supposed to be coming out August 29th. I'm going to be there. Day 1. I'm watching this. No trailer yet. I'm just going to watch it because Peter Dinklage is playing the main character. Now, when I heard that, I was like, wait a minute. He's a dwarf. How can he play Toxie? He can't play that character. He's too short. He's not tall enough. Like, what are they doing? Okay, well, let's see what they're doing. I read a couple articles, and he's voicing. He plays the character in the beginning. He plays his human version, and he voices the character. But it's a different actor. It's a tall actor playing actual Toxic in the costume. So he's not really playing the character. He's just voicing the character. And I read some stuff about the plot, and I'm like, I'll just wait for the trailer. But man, that is gonna be that is gonna be really cool. And so yeah, that's gonna wrap up today's episode of the Majin class. And it's a solo podcast right now. I'm hoping to eventually get some guests to come on and maybe tell their story, and we can like share moments and talk about our nerd stuff like movies, games, TV shows, toy collections, stuff like that. But I just wanted to get these out. I wanted to start doing these because I've always wanted to do it, and I think I can be successful with it. And I think you guys will just enjoy listening to me ramble for 1 to 2 hours. But I want to point this out to you guys, so if you've listened this far, I appreciate it. If you would like to email, you can head over to MajinPlanet.com, go to contacts, and you can submit and you can email me. And I will have in the form, it'll have like, you put like the Majin cast. And send me an email if you have any questions. Like if you want to correct me, if I said something wrong on the show, on an episode of the show, you can correct me. If you want to give me more information, like, hey, just so you know, and actually that actor's name is this, and he actually was originally in this, and his father played this character in this show, and it's just, you know what I mean, something like that. Or if it's like, oh, hey, have you thought about picking up blah, 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 or I have a question about my collection. Do you think you could help me? Or, hey, what did you think about this movie? What did you think about this anime? What do you think about this toy line? Are you interested in this toy line? Stuff like that, So send me emails. I'll usually read maybe 1 or 2 of them per show, depending on how many I get. And then, of course, I would like to give a big shout out to our Patreon users. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel and ultimately supporting these, because you will get these episodes a full week, roughly 4 days. I think it's 4 days. That's what I'm do. Yeah, because I'll record this on Wednesday. I'll release it on Patreon next Wednesday I think next Wednesday, and then it'll be out on Friday. So this will be a weekly show, and hope you guys enjoy it. And I just want to give a big shout out to my Patreon user, Lightning, for joining, and I appreciate it. And I'll be shouting out more people in the future. Depending on how big we get, I won't be able to shout out everybody on the show, but I'll definitely shout out random people. I'll pick random names, and I'll give you shout outs and everything like that. And thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time.